I just wanted to quickly show, first off, that we've been able to publish quite a bit right now. The current TVL for the bread cracking application on Polygon right now is about 50K, which is pretty good. About 113 holders. You can see the amount of transfers on Polygon scan. And so what we need to do is basically move all this collateral from Polygon into Gnosis Chain for our new application. And because we will be deprecating the Polygon version in order to really focus on the Gnosis Chain version. And so here is the current version of the app the Gnosis version of the application, which is at gnosis.app.breadchain.xyz, which maybe I'll share that in the chat to make it a bit easier in case you guys want to check it out. And so you can see here, we can compare it with the Polygon application right now. This is the Polygon application that we have. So we're doing kind of both a migration to a new chain and updating the branding. We're updating like the assets to make it look a bit cleaner and a bit nicer. And so I really like our new design with the application. I think it's although I like the kind of video game aesthetics of this one, I think the new one maybe gives a little bit more trust and is a little bit smoother to read. And then we also have now a nice footer and everything. So all the design stuff that we should have done in the beginning, including light mode and dark mode, is there now. But so if you want to use the new application, it's pretty simple. You just need to connect on Gnosis Chain through your wallet, and you will need some XDAI. So XDAI is the native currency on Gnosis Chain. And even if you haven't used the application before, what's really nice is that you can already use it because we're using XDAI in the sense that you don't have to approve the contract. So basically we reduce one of the steps in allowing people to bake bread. So if I put 5, I can press bake, and then I just confirm that transaction in my wallet immediately, even if I have 0 bread there. So if I confirm it, get the little modal, it's checking for the on-chain confirmation, so the transaction, and making sure that's passed, and then I'll get a little, so now the transaction is confirmed, and then the amount of bread that I hold now is updated with 5 more.
Josh, are you intending to share the new Gnosis chain in your live stream? Because I'm just seeing the old Polygon contract address.
What do you see? I'm not seeing. Oh no. That's because I did window instead of screen. 1 second. Sorry about that. Well, so you guys missed out on me doing the transaction, but I'll do it again. So basically you just put in the number here, so you don't have to approve any contracts in order to begin using it like you did in the old one, because we're using the native cryptocurrency of Gnosis Chain, which is XDAI, which is basically DAI that is bridged from the mainnet. But so I thought I would basically just do a live case of moving all of the collateral that I have on Polygon and moving it over to Gnosis Chain, and then turning it into bread on Gnosis Chain. So this is my actual funds that I own. And basically, if you guys want to do it, you can do it along with me if you have any bread in the Polygon version. So the Polygon version is just app.breadchain.xyz. So first thing you have to do is essentially burn your bread. So we're converting our bread into DAI on Polygon. In case we just
Wait, before you continue, is it not showing for anybody else, or is it just me?
I can see
It is showing, but you have to actually click on the stream that Josh has created for it to show up.
Okay, let me leave and come back.
It's just one of the windows.
Maybe then I'll just confirm it. So basically, I'm turning all this bread back into DAI. The transaction is complete, and I can see that, it's showing me that I have all this DAI back. And then the easiest way that I've seen to move from Polygon to Gnosis Chain is this application called Hop. It's app.hop.exchange. I'm going to put it in the chat for you guys. So this is Mercurial. This is how you can manually do it. Or the plan is that we will do the bridging for you and do the airdrop in a couple of weeks. Basically, what we wanted to do is just show like give a space of time for people to do it for themselves if they want to, so that you like feel secure and you can like test the new application, make sure that it works, and then you know where your assets are going. So what you do that is you need to burn your bread, turn it into dye, and then here you would bridge them from Polygon to Gnosis on Hop. I will pay a little bit of a fee to do that, so I won't get like exact full amount, of course. And then I would click send. I would send, and I would just need to confirm the transaction on Polygon if it will load the transaction. There we go. So I'll confirm that. And so it'll take about, just a couple of minutes for the transaction to be confirmed. But then I will have XDAI on Gnosis Chain once that's done. And so then I already have a bit of XDAI already. You just have to switch over to Gnosis Chain on your wallet, which MetaMask is always slow at doing. And then you can turn the rest of the DAI that you got from XDAI into bread. So I will basically turn the rest of the XDAI that I have in my wallet and bake that. And then I will have a bunch of bread, and I would have successfully migrated all of my collateral from Polygon into Gnosis Chain. And so, you can see that like in this version of the application, it's a lot sleeker. I really like the design improvements. It's a bit more colorful. It's a bit smoother. You can always go and check the transactions, and it's incredibly cheap because we're using Gnosis Chain as well. So whatever XI you have. So even though actually here you'll see that I did the max, which I actually shouldn't have done because then I would have no XI to pay for transaction fees, but it saved me, kept 1 penny for me. So even if you click max, it won't actually take all of your XI. It'll leave a little bit for you so that you're still able to make transactions. So it's a nice kind of like feature built in the application. And then we also have, if you click here, we have like a little banner for our liquidity pool. So basically we've created a liquidity pool on Curve, which is a DEX that is basically has the ability to cater their liquidity pool bonding curve to be like most suitable for stablecoin to stablecoin swaps. So here you can add liquidity for bread and wrapped XDAI, and that'll give you a way to allow people to swap in and out of bread on the exchange, which is really important in the future because what we want to do is integrate with Gnosis Pay, which is a debit card that basically creates a safe account for you on Gnosis Chain where you would spend actual, in this case, for Gnosis Pay, they have it for euros and for pounds. So you would basically pay, it'll take the Monerium euro or Monerium pound crypto token out of your safe account in order to make payments. Essentially, we want to integrate with that so that you can easily convert your bread into Monerium so that you can spend it on like buying your groceries or buying whatever it is you want to buy with your debit card. And this is like the thing that we were building in the hackathon that we got a little bit of money for. It was basically a simple way for you to be able to top up your Gnosis Pay account. And so if you provide liquidity, it also means that you would earn money in fees that people pay. So you would be a liquidity provider. So it isn't purely necessarily just like an altruistic thing necessarily, but it also helps the network grow and add utility for a lot of people. So those are like the high level things that we've been working on and that we've been building. Kind of the next step for us is as well to build the governance application, which will allow people who hold bread to be able to vote on how the yield gets distributed. And maybe just one thing to add is that if I can find it, the place where we are generating this yield is called Agave. So agave.finance, where you are able to, something's wrong. Of course it does it whenever I'm doing a demo. But Agave is where SDAI is being taken. They must be doing something right now. I don't know why that is, but usually it works. Usually it's fine. I think they must be doing some sort of, maybe it works now. Nope. I don't know what happened. Here it works. Yeah. So here is where you are depositing DAI and it's generating yield. So right now the yield is 20.793%, which is pretty high, pretty good. The DAI savings rate is 15% right now. I think this is like because of they're trying to compete with basically when there's a bull market, of course, like yield goes up because there's a lot more activity. And I think they're trying to compete with that. So right now we're getting a bit over 20%, which is pretty good. Before that, the DAI savings rate was at 5%. So yeah, so at the moment, it's a great time to bake bread and generate yields for the cooperative because they're giving out a higher percentage. And yeah, those were the main things that I wanted to show you guys and give some time for questions and thoughts.
Just gonna quickly say nice job on the live demo.
I figured if I use my actual money, it'll be more convincing.
Yeah, that's good. So sorry, I've been a little bit absent the past few weeks. How is SDI able to maintain such a high savings rate right now?
So essentially the way that SDI is being funded or where the money is coming from is through liquidations of vaults on MakerDAO. So they make a killing off of liquidated vaults on MakerDAO, which is essentially like you put in a bunch of ether, for example, and at one point it costs 10,000. It's worth 10,000. And so you pull out, it has to be over collateralized. So you pull out $7,000, but then the price of ether drops for some reason. And so then now you are not at the appropriate collateral ratio within the vault. And so your vault gets liquidated. So all your ether is taken. So that is converted and given out through SDAI. So the percentage that MakerDAO makes off of the liquidations of those vaults is a lot higher than the DAI savings rate that they give. That's like my general understanding. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that.
I see. So basically, it seems like we're having a downturn. I know that Bitcoin went way up and now it's trying to go down at a rapid rate. So is these liquidations linked to that? Is there a similar trend in Ethereum right now?
I wouldn't say that's necessarily that. It just has to do with like volatility, necessarily a downturn. It really depends on when you create your vault and how you supply it. And there's like all this strategies around how you do that best.
All right. I think that generally covers it. Is there documentation regarding this online?
For sure. In the MakerDAO documentation, you should find it.
All right. We'll look over that.
What's important to note as well, though, is that the DAI savings rate is 15%, which means that on the Ethereum mainnet, that's what you're getting. But because we're on Gnosis Chain, and Gnosis Chain, the native currency is XDAI, which is bridged DAI. But however, they turned the DAI all into SDAI on the mainnet. And so all of the bridged SDAI actually is generating yield on the DAI savings rate. But because there isn't an exact match of the amount of XDAI as there is SDAI that is being bridged, that means that the DAI savings rate acts as a floor for the minimum amount of money that you would make by holding SDAI. So we are always going to make more than the DAI savings rate.
Gotcha. So basically the net holds a certain amount of DAI. It does not issue the same amount of X DAI. So it can use that to boost the savings rate.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Thank you.
I should have a question about Gnosis Pay. You mentioned that you can use Gnosis Pay and actually use your card or your digital card to spend Monerium euros or pounds. My question is, when you're doing that, is that an instant transaction where bread or the wrap XDAI that you have is instantly converted into Monerium euros or pounds by Gnosis Pay and then used to pay? Or do you need to preload your account by converting a bunch of bread to those currencies?
So we don't yet have like the integration built for this. It's what we're working on, and we're in talks with Gnosis Pay on how to do that. But yeah, so all the payments happen through Monerium, which is like a regulated financial institution. So basically the euro or the pound, the Monerium basically just gets sent back to Monerium, and then they handle like the TradFi payment system, but it has to be the Monerium token. So for like, you can't spend the bread, like that's not like the direct payment being made, like bread isn't being sent to Monerium. But what we can do, so you'll have to have Monerium in your account, and then we can connect that to wherever you're storing your bread so that it can top up each maybe payment per transaction that you make. So it's like we can make it to where it's effectively very similar, but we can't make it to where it's literally bread. So that's like about as close to of an integration as we can get without becoming like a regulated financial institution ourselves. If that makes sense. Like the big kind of breakthrough for me is that with Gnosis Pay, you receive an IBAN. So you can send euros or pounds directly to that IBAN, and it'll create Monerium euros or pounds that you send. So you immediately get it on chain, and then you can do DeFi stuff with it, which to me is very cool.
Well, thank you.
So yeah, Gnosis Pay is something that I'm super excited about. They gave us third place for their hackathon, and yeah, we're in talks to integrate into them a bit more. So yeah, it's interesting to be in this position. I think they've been fairly cooperative so far. So yeah, and then also if you have any bread in the old Arrakis liquidity pool, then I would definitely recommend taking it out. And yeah, if you want to manually transfer, then go ahead. If you want to, we'll handle all the transfer ourselves, no worries. My hope is that we can do that either by end of the month or beginning of April. We just have to plan that out. We're working on a script in order to scrape all the on-chain data so that we can identify everyone who holds bread. And then we'll do the airdrop once the Polygon application has stopped, been paused, and then airdrop everything on Gnosis Chain. And yeah, it also may be interesting to note that if you create a safe account on Gnosis Chain, then they will cover all of your transaction fees. They do like 5 transactions an hour are free. In case you're worried about transaction fees, having a safe account is pretty useful. So yeah, are there any other thoughts, questions, concerns, things that you would like to see, something that we're missing?
Yeah, I think the UI of it looks great. I think it would be cool if we got some sort of what would you call it? Like, I can't think of the word right now, but basically just like a way to display how much has accrued on the Agave on there so that people can visualize everything. And I know it can be done probably just by going to the Agave site, but it would be nice if there was just like a little like modal something.
Yeah, sure. That's actually that's a good point, and something that we're building as well. I don't know. I can show you guys like our current like Figma of a couple of other things that we're building in case you guys are interested.
I'm interested.
All right, then I'll do it. I just needed someone to confirm.
Do it.
So right now, this is the current draft of the governance page that we're working on. So here is where you would like, here you have bake, the dashboard is something else that we're building, and then governance. But in the governance here, it would show you how much yield there is to distribute. So the idea is that we would do like a monthly rhythm where each month we would distribute all of the yield based on how people have voted. And so the amount of voting power that you have will be based on, at least as this version 0, will be based on the amount of bread that you hold over an amount of time. So over the month, you accrue voting power based on how much bread you're holding at each block, essentially. So each block, you're accumulating voting power based on the amount of bread that you have. So this way we prevent someone from like minting a ton of bread last minute and then doing their vote. Here we're doing it time weighted. So it still, of course, encourages people to mint bread, but also to hold it or to have it over the month. And that doesn't it doesn't factor in determining the voting power. So yeah, so they'll show that. And then another thing that we're building, or that will probably come afterwards, that may take a bit longer, is this dashboard. So we want to make essentially like an economic dashboard of the bread economy as a way to display to people what is going on and like how much money has been generated, et cetera, et cetera. This thing will be updated by the time it comes out. But this is like, we have like, for example, a line graph that just shows over time the amount of bread supply that there is, how much is in the treasury. I think we should have something that shows like the total amount of yield that has been accumulated, perhaps historically, like, yeah, our TVL and liquidity pools, the number of transactions, et cetera. And even as like a user, how much of the bread economy are like, do you have a stake of, for example, or do you have in the liquidity pool? And yeah, whether or not you've collected like a bunch of the NFTs that we have already out there. So we're still working on building these things. This is been a work in progress. We were working on this for the Polygon version, and then we made the decision to move to Gnosis Chain. So that's why you see some stuff that's like more related to Polygon. But yeah, the idea is that with this, we can take note of different things that are happening in the markets. And then based on that information, we can suggest to a user what they should do in order to help the collective. So the idea is that like, if the yield, for example, is very high or is higher than usual, then we would want to recommend the user, like in a banner up here, for them to go and mint bread because it's a good time to do so. Other things could be like, if there is some imbalance in the liquidity pool, maybe we would recommend to a user to add some liquidity to the liquidity pool so that there's enough in there. So things like that, basically trying to use the public nature of on-chain data to help the user realize what is their place in the entire system and how they can best contribute to it by translating all this data into like, the cliche term is actionable insights, like actionable, like informed decisions about what they should do. So yeah, this is meant to, for me, this is like a kind of like high level theory for me is like, how do we build or how do we act as like a post-capitalist subject? Like the capitalist subject in the capitalist economy is someone who is very individualistic. They pursue endeavors economically to enrich themselves, and they keep information to themselves to like prevent others from knowing so that they can benefit in markets better than others. Whereas to me, a post-capitalist subject would be someone who has information about their community and about the people, or about the kind of economy as a whole that they are in, and they know their place in it, or they can identify what their place is, and then make decisions that help the collective. Because even today, even if we wanted to, it's quite difficult to know how best you can contribute to your community's economy, for example. So this is like the idea around it. And so you can know your place here, and then in the governance page, you would be able to also create and take part in how we allocate our resources.
I love that idea, Josh. That's really exciting. It's like doing the practical work of looking at what the tools make possible and then putting them together in a way that people can support leftist or solidarist causes. So it's awesome. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but yeah, I think we're getting there. We've been making really good progress lately. Simakir, you asked, are there any plans to use any Gnosis ecosystem tools like Common Stack, etc.? Maybe. There isn't, like, we've considered trying to use some of their tools for some things. Like, I know they have, and we thought about like potentially in the future using Praise maybe. Although I've heard good and bad things about Praise, so I'm still not sure yet if it's right for us. Conviction voting is also really interesting. right now we're not using conviction voting, but it is like maybe a potential tool for us to use if we change the voting mechanism. My feeling is that right now we're doing it a monthly rhythm with the idea, for me at least, that in order to create a community, you need regular interactions in order to build up solidarity and like understanding in a community. Like the reason why everybody loves, like plenty of people maybe don't care about about like the specifics about, I don't know, their religion, but they do like the community aspects of going every Sunday to mass or whatever. And that's how you, like a lot of community is built. So I'm trying to see if we have this regular monthly event or like ritual that we all partake in which we're voting on these types of things, and that would help develop a community as like a foundational base for everything that we do. And then maybe later down the line, I can try other voting mechanisms. See, how will the max number of recipients be determined? Seems like that's an important lever to ensure that yields are meaningful. Definitely. So right now, the number of recipients is basically just the members of the cooperative network. Where right now, as is version 0, we're restricting it to that. So how a new project becomes a member is basically just through consensus. All the other projects have to agree on whether a new project gets added. The idea for me is that in the beginning, it's very important to be highly aligned. And so we should have a lot of thoughts about having another project that is aligned with how we view things. Of course, if it gets much bigger and like there's a lot more projects, then maybe that'll change. But since we're still quite small, then I think it makes more sense to have like a consensus on this. We've also played around with the idea of like how we could allow people to propose maybe specific initiatives or specific projects to be included for like that monthly round. But that's something for more down the line. So we don't really know the exact how that will work.
Thank you.
Are we thinking about a cross-chain future? We're thinking about it. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. I don't know if there's something like specific you had in mind with that question. I would say that just assume Polygon's aggregated thesis. Yeah, I think in general, I think what's important to keep in mind with cross-chain stuff is that it greatly increases complexity for us if we have more chains, is like my feeling. Like ultimately what we want is for bread to be used like a currency, like something that can be spent, and fragmentation of funds. So the idea is that my kind of prediction, my thinking is that Gnosis Chain is going to increase a lot because of Gnosis Pay. Basically, people can now give their IBAN to their employer and they can get paid directly in Monerium euros or pounds, and they'll receive it on chain. And then you can use that for whatever it is that you want to use it for. So I think there's going to be like a lot of growth of Gnosis Chain is my feeling. It's going to actually be used for payments, which is very interesting. So it's a bit of a bet. I know for a lot of people, like they're excited about optimism and all these other layer 2s. But my feeling is that there will be a lot of growth with Gnosis Chain because of Gnosis Pay. So yeah, I'm honestly really excited to be able to like not ever have to use a centralized exchange again and just send an IBAN bank transfer and have my Monerium there, and I can already do whatever stuff on chain that I want to do. So yeah, another maybe thing to mention is that we also have a mobile wallet, essentially usable. I can share a link. So we have a mobile wallet because we're using an application called Citizens Wallet, which we have Bread already integrated into their stuff. So here's like at least on Android, I know it's available. I don't have an iPhone, but I'm pretty sure it's there. But you can download Citizens Wallet, which is an application, and you can join the Bread community in there. And essentially, it's a type of wallet that's specifically catered towards like onboarding users. Essentially, it's completely it's account abstraction, so you don't have to pay any transaction fees by using the wallet. And there's a lot of really neat features for like in-person payments. We're hoping in a couple of weeks or so to have the guy Xavier who created Citizens Wallet to explain it and go through it. But yeah, it's a really nice tool if you guys want to check it out and see how it works. Yeah, it's got a neat feature that like you can create vouchers essentially, which is essentially like you say you want to give your friend some bread, but they've never used crypto before. You just create a QR code. They would scan it. The QR code will have a certain amount in it. So like you have one bread in it or something like that. They'll scan it. They'll see the voucher and they could claim it. And if they claim it, it'll create them a wallet in the browser, which will hold the amount of bread that's in that voucher. So then they have all of a sudden they have a crypto wallet with crypto in it. Even though they may have no idea what crypto is, they can already begin using it and use their phone as basically how they do transactions. I see, Lyndon, you asked about the privacy implications of using Monerium. Yeah, I think the privacy implications is that probably like people will see an on-chain transaction, but they won't know what it's for, is my understanding. So it's not like everyone can see your transaction history per se on like what you're purchasing, but they may see that there has been a transaction created. I don't know exactly like the timing of when you pay for it and when the transaction happened in your safe account, but that's something that we'll look into more. So what is the purpose of the Curve liquidity pool again? If you can just mint unmint bread with XDAI anyways, the purpose is for people to swap, right? So like the way that we make money is by having more bread in existence. We need people, if we want to integrate with Gnosis Pay, then users need to be able to swap their bread for Monerium to top it up. We don't want users essentially to burn their bread because they can't get out of the position or because they need to get something else. So by having a liquidity pool, which is very not volatile and using Curve, then we can allow people to make trades with it. So bread stays in existence and we're able to still generate the yield from that bread. So like in the future, I think, and Unai, we should definitely talk about this, but like, I think it would be interesting to try to encourage people to use Citizens Wallet to onboard their friends with bread. Yeah, because it's like a really like straight to the point kind of onboarding tool that I think would be very useful. So I recommend if you guys can put just like a tiny bit of bread in a Citizens Wallet and like play around with it and with some friends, I'd recommend it. Just try it out. And if you guys have any feedback on it, of course, let me know. So if there are any other thoughts or questions, I'm basically just like updating you guys with everything that we've been working on lately.
I appreciate it. It's all been really informative. Agreed. Loving it, Josh. Keep up the great work, and Unai and everyone.
Thank you guys. Yeah. Of course, if you want to take part, yeah. If you're in Europe or in the UK, then I recommend getting Gnosis Pay. I don't think it's not available in the US at the moment. I think there's still, a lot of difficulties with entering into the US. But if you're in the EU or in Europe, in the UK, then you can already order one. Otherwise, if you need XDAI, for example, there is ramp.network is what I found to be a pretty good one I have like an American friend of mine, basically within an hour was able to get approved and buy XDAI and receive it in her wallet. So that could be like a good solution for that if you need XDAI. And then we'll keep everyone posted about the progress of moving all the Polygon bread to Gnosis Chain. We're thinking of doing just like a live event for that, or maybe doing it in one of the community calls. Maybe everyone bring their favorite piece of bread. We'll have a bread party, and then we'll do the transition.
I'll bring baguettes.
The bread token address on Gnosis Chain. I can share that.
That's what we should call smaller denominations of bread, baguette.
I think someone suggested crumbs last time.
So 0.1 bread is a baguette. and 0.01 bread is a crumb.
Oh. All right, we can have different names for different denominations.
100 bread is a loaf.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I may steal that. I also did, I think for material, I did name, I'm pretty sure I named the liquidity, the LP token on Curve as butter, as you suggested, at least for the liquidity pool on Curve that I've been linking to.
Like the liquidity pulls up bread and butter, you mean?
Yeah, like you put bread and then you receive butter. It's your bread and butter. It works.
So if you make it so you also share bread and salt, then you can't ever be enemies, according to Arabic custom.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So if we want to make friends with someone, we create some token called salt. We send them bread and salt.
Could be roses. Yeah. Bread and roses. But yeah. All right. I will stop recording as well. Do it all.